Settle yourself gently, as if laying down the weight of centuries. Let your breathing slow, like soft clouds drifting over ancient plains. Tonight, you will wander through time, through old courtyards and sacred halls, through battles turned to whispers and grief turned to light. You will walk beside Emperor Ashoka, the ruler who built and broke, who carved his heart into stone, so that distant ages might still hear him. Before you lie down to get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I'm doing here. And if you feel like it, leave me a gentle note in the comments, telling me where and when you're listening from. I love to know where these quiet journeys find a home. Now, let go of the day. The lamps are dimming in the palaces of Pataliputra. The cool night air drifts over carved gates and lotus-filled ponds. History is waiting, soft and patient. Let us step quietly into the currents of time, where a young prince's heartbeat still echoes in marble corridors and distant bells hum beneath the stars. This is your passage through memory and stone, through a reign that once held the world in its hands and then opened them in compassion. Breathe deeply, let the night take you, the dream begins. You hear water first, a slow, shimmering sound, like a river breathing under moonlight. The air is warm and fragrant, thick with the scent of sandalwood and distant mango blossoms. You stand on the banks of the Ganges, and the night sky is alive with flickering oil lamps drifting on the current. Somewhere beyond the darkness lies the city of Pataliputra, heart of an empire that hums softly in its sleep. In this moment, a boy walks beside you. His robe is simple, his eyes watchful. He is not yet Emperor Ashoka. He is only a son of Bindusara, grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, heirs of a dynasty forged by the genius of Chanakya, the wily minister who once built an empire from scattered kingdoms. You feel the boy's quiet curiosity. He listens to the river as if it holds secrets. Around him, the Mauryan capital stirs. Grand wooden halls set upon stone foundations, high-pillared assembly chambers, and gardens laid with flowering neem and tamarind. Artisans by day carve ivory and inlay silver into the polished balustrades. At night, torches flicker on the fortified walls, and the hum of distant chanting drifts through the banyan groves. You see the young prince pause at a chariot yard, watching wheels taller than himself, bound in iron, smelling faintly of resin and earth. Elephants shift in their chains, their shadows long and slow-moving. The empire's power is everywhere, but so is its mystery. You breathe in the night air and feel the heartbeat of ancient India, a world of merchants and monks, of treaties written on palm leaves, of travelers carrying silk and stories from distant lands. And beside you, the boy who will one day carve words into stone simply gazes at the river, quiet, as if waiting for something unnamed to arrive. The lantern light fades, and you drift a little deeper, the sound of the river carrying you softly toward sleep. You wake within the dream to the sound of a bamboo flute in the distance, its notes slow and trembling, like a child testing the air for secrets. The sun has not yet risen, and a pale mist curls above the palace gardens of Pataliputra. The boy who will be Ashoka walks a shaded colonnade, his hand trailing softly against a pillar carved with blooming lotus petals. You feel the coolness of the stone, still damp from the night's breath. Servants pad silently through the corridors, carrying trays of copper vessels, their footsteps cushioned by reed mats. In the court beyond, ministers gather with scrolls of palm leaves and sealed clay tablets. It is here, within these walls, that the blueprint of an empire hums. Roads stretching like veins across the subcontinent, caravans carrying salt from the coasts, black pepper bound for lands even beyond the Indus. You sense the rhythm of it all, like a pulse beneath the earth. The boy listens when elders speak of his grandfather, Chandragupta, how he forged unity out of warring kingdoms, how he once walked among monks and philosophers in Takshashila, learning the old laws. The boy listens and says little. You feel in him a flicker of something vast, as though his soul already carries the weight of time itself. But for now, he is restless. His teachers speak of dharma, of duty, of kingship born of justice. Yet the boy's eyes wander toward the training grounds where soldiers whirl their spears, where elephants trumpet and paw the earth. One day you walk with him through the bustling heart of Pataliputra. The city gates tower above, lacquered in colors, faded by sun and monsoon rains. You hear the creak of ox carts and the laughter of potters shaping clay. A spice merchant lifts a handful of turmeric, golden as morning light, letting the powder slip between his fingers. Nearby, scribes sit cross-legged, scratching neat Devanagari script upon leaves, their ink dark as crow's wings. The boy pauses at a temple, where a small shrine flickers with key lamps before an image of Vishnu. Priest chants softly, the syllables rising like incense into the dawn air. You see the boy bow his head. He is already learning that empires are not built by swords alone, but by faith, by threads of belief that hold people together across deserts and forests, across languages and customs. Time moves as softly as wind in palm fronds. You see the boy grow taller, his frame lean, his eyes sharper. He learns the arts of governance, how to hear petitions, how to weigh punishment against mercy, how to ride with a column of cavalry through the Vindhya hills. Yet you feel something restless within him, a flame that is both fierce and uncertain. He watches his elder brothers, each vying for favor, each dreaming of the lion throne. You see jealousy flicker in their glances, hear whispers in shaded courtyards, and feel the tension coil like vines around old stone. Years pass like the river itself, carrying moments away until only memory remains. Now, the boy is a man, and his hands are calloused from sword and bow. He leads a campaign into the wild eastern lands, where the dense saul forests are alive with parrots and hidden villages. You walk with him along muddy tracks, past soldiers singing to keep fear at bay, past elephants draped in armor plates, their trunks swaying. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and crushed leaves. You hear the cry of peacocks echoing across distant hills. In these years of conquest, he learns the taste of victory, but also the shadow it casts. Villages burned, fields trampled, lives uprooted. These pass before his eyes like ghosts at dusk. He does not speak of them, not yet, but you feel the weight gathering in his heart. Then comes the word that will change him forever. Kalinga, the land by the sea, proud and unbowed, resists Mauryan reach. You stand beside him on a high ridge and watch the armies arrayed. Countless ranks of spearmen, chariots with wheels gleaming, banners snapping in the coastal wind. You feel the salt air on your face, taste acid on your lips, mingled with the dust of 1,000 feet. The drums roll like distant thunder, and the earth itself seems to tremble beneath the weight of war. The battle is long and fierce. You hear the clash of iron, the cries that tear the morning air, and though the Mauryan banners rise victorious, the land itself seems to weep. When night falls, Ashoka walks alone among the fallen, his torchlight flickering over broken spears and silent forms. The sea wind carries the faint sound of mourning from distant villages. He kneels beside a soldier whose lifeless hand still clutches a charm of clay, and you feel the grief like a tide breaking over him. It is here, in the quiet aftermath, that something begins to turn within. He gazes at the carnage and feels not triumph, but sorrow, so deep it seems to hollow him from within. You hear his voice, soft, almost broken. What have I done in the name of an empire? The question drifts into the night, unanswered, carried only by the sea wind and the sighing of the casuarina trees. In the months that follow, you walk beside him on lonely roads. He seeks out monks, men of simple robes and calm eyes, those who speak of the middle way, of compassion stronger than swords. You hear them tell him of the Buddha, of a prince who gave up his crown to seek an end to suffering. These words fall like rain upon parched earth, sinking deep. Ashoka returns to Pataliputra, not as the man he was, but as someone gentled by remorse. You see him in a quiet chamber, seated before a slab of polished stone. A chisel rests in his hand. Slowly, carefully, he begins to carve words, not commands, but guidance. He carves of Dharma, of truth, of kindness that crosses caste and creed. These edicts, spread across the empire, will stand for centuries, their letters still legible when his voice is long gone. You see them carried on the backs of elephants, through forests and deserts to be raised as pillars of stone in distant provinces. Each pillar whispers to those who pass, "Let no creature be slain without cause. Let all men walk gently in the world." And across the land, hearts begin to soften. Merchants speak kindly to strangers. Villagers plant trees along dusty roads for the shade of travelers. Even the great halls of governance seem quieter, imbued with a strange calm. As night deepens, you walk once more through Pataliputra. The moonlight falls on those stone edicts, silvering the carved words. You hear the distant chant of monks in a temple garden, their voices weaving through the cool night air. Ashoka stands alone before one of his pillars, his hand resting on the ancient stone. He is older now, his beard touched with gray, but his eyes hold a peace that once eluded him. You stand with him in that silence. The river flows gently beyond, carrying lotus petals and the faint scent of sandalwood. Time itself seems to pause, letting the listener, letting you, breathe deeply and sink further into the embrace of history and night. The wind moves softly through the neem trees. The last of the city's lamps flicker out, one by one, like fireflies. You feel your own breath slowing, your own eyes growing heavy. The empire rests. The emperor's heart, once restless, now beats in rhythm with the great wheel of Dharma. And as you drift further, deeper, the world softens into a hush, carrying you gently onward, as though the stone pillars themselves whisper you into sleep. You awaken, within the dream, to the hush of monsoon rain falling softly on red-brown earth. The scent of wet jasmine drifts through open latticed windows, and somewhere beyond the palace walls, a conch sounds low and mellow, announcing the hour before dawn. You sit in stillness for a moment, feeling the damp air on your skin, hearing the distant hum of life returning after the storm. You see Ashoka, no longer only a prince, not yet the emperor he will become, standing alone beneath the shadow of the palace's great lion throne hall. Above him rise carved beams, each etched with leaping deer and curling vines, the legacy of artisans whose names are lost to time. A single lamp flickers at his side, throwing long shadows against the polished wooden floor. He gazes upward, past the silk banners, to the throne itself, gleaming with gold in the wavering light. You feel the weight of expectation in the air. In this hall, decisions are carried like seeds on the wind, growing into laws, into armies, into destinies that sweep across rivers and mountains. Here, the fate of the Mauryan Empire is woven, and the boy who walked the gardens now stands among the whispers of succession. The emperor, his father Bindusara, grows ill. Courtiers speak in low tones, careful not to disturb the fragile balance of power. Elder brothers hover like falcons above prey, each calculating, each dreaming of the crown. Ashoka walks through corridors olive with rumor. You hear the echo of his sandals against stone, the occasional rustle of a curtain as spies move like shadows. It is a world of veiled eyes and measured words, where loyalty is worn like a mask. One evening, you follow him to the council chamber. Torches hiss softly in the humid air. Ministers debate taxation in distant provinces, irrigation of the Ganges canals, treaties with the Seleucid Greeks far to the west, maps of the known world spread across low tables, the snaking Indus, the forested Deccan, the curve of the coastline where pearl divers plunge into the sea. Ashoka listens more than he speaks, yet when he does, his voice is calm. Sure, he speaks of building roads to link scattered villages, of appointing officers known as Tama Mahamatas, men who would carry ethics, not swords, into the provinces. Some elders glance at him with quiet surprise, sensing an unusual vision. But vision alone cannot claim the lion throne. You feel the tension mounting like distant thunder. Ashoka's brothers maneuver their own factions, whispering to generals, binding themselves to merchants, weaving alliances with queens and ministers. A single misstep could mean exile, or worse. You walk with him through moonlit gardens as he ponders his path. Statues of lions stand silent beneath banyan trees. He pauses before one, his fingers brushing the cool stone, as though seeking courage from its carved eyes. Then comes the night, when cries shatter the quiet. Somewhere in the depths of the palace, a torch is overturned. Shadows lurch against the walls, and Ashoka is roused from uneasy dreams. He hurries through narrow corridors, the taste of smoke in his mouth, until he finds a brother's chamber in turmoil. Servants whisper of plots uncovered, of poison meant for a cup, of a secret blade hidden within folded silk. The details blur in the haze of memory, but you feel the pulse of danger, the quickening of fate. Days pass, heavy with uncertainty. Ashoka is sent to distant Ujjain as governor, a move that many think will keep him from the throne. You journey with him across plains, shimmering in heat, through fields of swaying millet and rice, past caravanserais where travelers rest beneath neem trees. In Ujjain, crossroads of trade and culture, he learns the rhythm of rule firsthand. You see him at the great market, where Greek coins exchange hands beside Indian ones, where silk from China hangs beside ivory from the south. You watch him mediate disputes between rival guilds, hear him question the treatment of laborers, watch him plan canals to bring life to dry fields. Word reaches him in Ujjain that his father weakens further. The empire trembles on the edge of change. Messengers arrive breathless at dawn, their horses flecked with foam, bearing news of skirmishes near the palace. You feel the tension coil within him, a sense that his destiny waits, that if he does not return, the empire may fall into hands that would lead it to ruin. And so he rides, hard and fast, back toward Pataliputra. You ride with him through forests thick with teak, through villages where children stop to stare at the dust rising behind his retinue. You sleep beneath the stars while his generals whisper by the fire, their eyes sharp, their loyalty tested by the long road ahead. When you wake, the sun paints the land in gold, and you see the great walls of Pataliputra rising from the river mist. The city is alive with rumor. 2 brothers have fallen in mysterious circumstances, the court whispers. Another flees toward the western provinces. Ashoka walks through the Lion Throne Hall again, but this time the air is different. Charged, electric, as though history itself holds its breath. He kneels briefly before the throne, then rises. Around him, ministers bow their heads. The choice has been made. The river of fate runs swift, and the empire has found its sovereign. You see him seated at last upon the lion throne, its carved paws gleaming, the high back etched with rosettes and vines. The hall is silent, save for the low murmur of ritual blessings. Ashoka's hands rest calmly on his knees, but his eyes gaze far beyond the chamber, as though he sees not only the empire he inherits, but the one he must build anew. Outside, the rain has ceased. Sunlight spills across the palace gardens, turning each drop of water into a spark of fire. Somewhere a peacock cries, its haunting call echoing through the colonnades. You stand in that golden hush, feeling the weight of centuries, knowing that this moment will ripple outward through time like rings upon a still pond. As night falls, torches are lit along the palace walls. Merchants in distant bazaars speak the new emperor's name with curiosity, with hope, with fear. Ashoka walks alone beneath the stars, his robe trailing softly over polished stone. He looks up at the moon, at the endless turning of the heavens, and you feel the stillness within him, the calm before the great deeds, the quiet before the teachings that will one day circle the earth. The air is cool, scented with wet earth and jasmine. The empire rests once more, the wheel of time turning, carrying you gently deeper into dreams. You wake again in the hush of early dawn. where the river mists hang low and the earth breathes quietly beneath your feet. You feel the air thick with anticipation, heavy with the weight of choices soon to be made. Somewhere in the far distance, drums beat a slow cadence, not yet a call to war, but a heartbeat of an empire stirring. You stand beside Ashoka on a ridge overlooking the plains, and the sky is awash with a pale rose light, the first hint of sun stretching across fields of rice and millet. In these years of his reign, the Mauryan Empire is vast and strong, stretching from the snow-fed Himalayas down to the shadowed forests of the Deccan. Merchants carry sandalwood and pepper along the Grand Trunk Road, the great artery of the realm. Stone-pillared rest houses shelter travelers and wandering monks alike. Ashoka listens to reports from governors and magistrates, his mind a web of rivers, fortresses, taxes, and treaties. You feel his tireless energy, his steady breathing as he studies maps and listens to soft-spoken advisors. But one name rises again and again from the scrolls of his ministers: Kalinga. Kalinga, a proud kingdom to the east, near the sea, where waves strike white against black rock. It has never bowed to Mauryan authority. Its rulers send no tribute. Its banners, still their own bright colors, unbent to the lion flag of Pataliputra. Ashoka walks the colonnades at night, thinking of that distant coast. You walk with him in silence, hearing the rustle of tamarind leaves overhead, the faint calls of nightbirds. He stops before a torchlit map and places his hand upon that eastern shore. You feel the tension in his fingers. He whispers to himself, almost too softly to hear, all of this must be won, or none of it can stand. The decision forms slowly, like a tide pulling back before a storm. Messengers ride out with sealed orders. In the barracks, soldiers sharpen their spears and oil their bows. Carpenters hammer at chariots, their wheels bound with new iron rims. Elephants are draped in armor, their foreheads painted with protective symbols in ochre and chalk. You wander through the camps at night, hearing the low murmurs of men, remembering home, the soft creak of leather saddles, the hiss of wet whetstones on blades. Weeks pass, and the army gathers, a living river of bronze and wood, of hoofbeats and banners. You travel with them through groves of sal and teak, the sun beating down, the air humming with cicadas. At night, campfires bloom like scattered stars across the plains. Ashoka walks among his men, speaking quietly, his presence steadying those who feel fear. You sense the loyalty they hold for him, the belief that under his command, the Mauryan lion will roar triumphant. Then, at last, the sea wind reaches you. It carries the scent of salt and the cries of distant gulls. You stand on a high rise and look down upon Kalinga's emerald fields, its villages clustered like pearls, its people tending rice paddies under the wide sky. Beyond, the royal city gleams with whitewashed walls, banners fluttering defiantly in the breeze. Ashoka gazes upon it, silent. The drums begin to beat faster now, signaling formations, summoning strength. The army moves like a shadow down the hillsides, a wave rolling toward the coast. You feel the ground tremble under thousands of feet. Dust rises in great clouds, blurring the horizon. The sun glints off bronze helmets and the curved tips of spears. And then, with a cry that seems to shake the very earth, The lines surge forward. The clash comes swift. Arrows darken the sky. Chariots wheel and crash, their spoked wheels shrieking. War elephants charge, tusks gleaming, banners streaming from their towers. The sound is deafening. Drums, horns, the roar of men, the trumpeting of beasts. You feel it in your chest, like thunder, like the shattering of some ancient silence. Yet as you move through the chaos with Ashoka, you begin to see the cost. A village burns on the edge of the plain, its thatch consumed by flames that leap and dance. Civilians flee, their cries piercing the din. Ashoka rides through streets littered with abandoned tools, with toppled carts, with shadows of those who fought and fell. He raises his hand, calling for order, for mercy where none is found. But the tide of war is relentless, and the soldiers cannot hear. Night falls over the battlefield. Torches flicker along the riverbanks, casting long reflections over the dark water. Ashoka dismounts, stepping slowly among the fallen. You follow him, the torchlight wavering, casting faces into brief, heartbreaking clarity. A mother lies with her child, clutched to her chest. A young archer, no older than 20, stares sightlessly at the stars, his fingers still curled as if holding a bowstring. The emperor's breath catches. You hear him whisper to the silent night, "Is this victory?" He kneels beside an old man whose lips still move, murmuring prayers. The man's eyes meet his, and in them, Ashoka sees not defeat, but a question, a plea for meaning. You feel it too, deep and unsettling. The drums have stopped now, but in their absence you hear something else. The sound of the sea, endless and indifferent, washing against the blood-soaked shore. In the weeks that follow, the army withdraws, leaving ashes and silence behind. Ashoka returns to Pataliputra, but the victory feels hollow. He sits in the throne hall unmoving as ministers praise his conquest. He listens, but his eyes are distant, his thoughts turning to those fields, those cries, those unanswered prayers. One evening, he walks alone through the palace gardens. You follow him under the banyan trees, heavy with dew. The moon is high, a silver wheel turning slowly in the black sky. Ashoka kneels by a pond where lotus flowers float, their petals luminous. He dips his hand into the still water and watches the ripples spread outward, gentle, unstoppable. You feel his heart ache in that quiet moment, the beginning of a change that will shape the centuries to come. As he rises, a monk approaches, robe simple, feet bare upon the gravel path. He bows, and Ashoka meets his eyes, searching, listening. The monk speaks softly of the Buddha's path, of compassion that endures beyond power, of Dharma as the true guide of rulers and men alike. Each word seems to fall into Ashoka's soul like rain upon dry earth. He thanks the monk with a voice you can barely hear, and the two stand together beneath the moon, silent, sharing the stillness. You feel the shift within him, slow but certain, like a river changing course over long years. The drums of war fade, replaced by something gentler, deeper, a new cadence guiding him forward. And you, standing there under the night sky, feel yourself drifting too, deeper into the soft folds of sleep, carried by the sound of the sea and the whisper of wind through distant palms. The empire sleeps, The stars wheel above, and the man who once shook the world with war now begins to dream of peace. Let yourself drift with him ever deeper into the silence that follows the drums. The night within your dream softens again, as though centuries exhale all at once. You awaken to the sound of distant temple bells carried on a morning breeze. Their tones are low and round, lingering in the air like ripples upon water. The battlefield of Kalinga is behind you now, though it lingers in Ashoka's mind like a shadow he cannot shake. You stand with him on the banks of the Daya River, where the earth is still marked by the wheels of war chariots long gone, and the soil is dark where fires once raged. But now, the land is quiet. The only movement is the sway of tall grasses, golden and silver in the light of early dawn. Ashoka kneels, his robes brushing the wildflowers that have begun to grow between stones, once stained by sorrow. You feel the wind against your face, carrying the scent of rain from far-off hills, and the faint sweetness of jasmine planted by villagers returning to rebuild. You hear almost imperceptibly the murmur of prayers whispered by those who survived, words floating into the brightening sky. Ashoka closes his eyes. He remembers the cries, the smoke, the weight of a sword in his hand. But now, in this soft morning, he feels something else rise within him, a yearning to mend, to restore. You feel it too, like the steady heartbeat of the earth beneath your feet. He speaks softly, though no one is near enough to hear. Never again by my will shall rivers run with blood. From this vow, a transformation begins. Days later, you walk beside him through the inner courtyards of Pataliputra. Sunlight streams through latticed windows, dappling the stone floors with shifting patterns. Ashoka summons ministers not to plan campaigns, but to discuss new decrees. Scribes unroll fresh palm leaf scrolls, dipping their reed pens into dark ink as they record his words. You listen as he speaks of Dhamma, the law of harmony, of compassion that stretches beyond tribe, beyond class, beyond creed. He orders the release of certain prisoners, the planting of medicinal gardens in every province, the protection of animals from needless slaughter. He creates posts for officers of morality, the Dhamma Mahamatas, who travel the empire not with swords, but with messages of kindness, urging communities to live with gentleness and fairness. Travel with him now, through his eyes. Imagine the dusty road leading north, where he visits monasteries built from stone and timber, their courtyards lined with Bodhi trees, whose leaves shimmer in the sun. Monks greet him with folded hands, their saffron robes bright against the brown earth. They speak softly of the Buddha's teachings, of the Eightfold Path, of the middle way between extremes, of the stillness found when craving ceases. Ashoka listens, his heart opening like a lotus in morning light. You stand beside him in that shaded grove and feel the peace settling around you, gentle as falling petals. The empire changes slowly, like a great river carving new channels. In villages, edicts arrive carved in smooth slabs of stone, set upright at crossroads where farmers and merchants gather. You watch as people trace the letters with their fingers, sounding out words that tell them of their ruler's vow. Honor all faiths. Show mercy to all beings. Let your hearts be open as the sky itself. Children, listen wide-eyed as elders explain these new laws, their voices low and reverent in the afternoon heat. Ashoka himself journeys across the land. You ride with him past fields of sugar cane and groves of mango, past markets alive with color, scarlet fabrics from distant lands, brass vessels shining in the sun. At rest stops along the royal road, he pauses to speak with travelers, asking about the fairness of local judges, about the health of the poor. His retinue waits in patient silence, accustomed now to these long, wandering conversations that weave threads of empathy across the empire. One evening, you arrive with him at the great city of Taxila, a place of learning where scholars debate beneath ancient banyans. They speak of grammar, of astronomy, of the healing properties of herbs. Ashoka listens and smiles, encouraging them to share their knowledge freely. You watch as he funds the building of a new hall where teachings may be preserved for generations. The city glows in lamplight that night, and you feel hope rising like the scent of blooming champa flowers. Yet even as he travels outward, Ashoka journeys inward as well. In the quiet of his private chambers, he sits cross-legged upon a woven mat, breathing slowly, his mind turning over memories. You feel the weight of them, his youth in Pataliputra's gardens, the clash of arms at Kalinga, the cries that haunt him still. But over these memories flows a softer voice, the voice of Dhamma, whispering, "From suffering can bloom compassion." He begins to write letters to distant king, Antiochus of Syria, Ptolemy of Egypt, urging peace, sending gifts of healing herbs and fine cloth. You see him seal these scrolls with wax, his signet ring pressing gently into the surface. Messengers depart, their horses carrying words of goodwill across mountains and seas. Somewhere far away, another ruler reads these words under torchlight, marveling that an emperor speaks not of conquest, but of peace. You walk with him to the workshops where artisans carve his edicts into living stone. The sound of chisels echoes through the courtyard, rhythmic and patient. Tall pillars of polished sandstone rise slowly, their surfaces smoothed by careful hands. On them are carved lions, standing back to back, their mouths open in eternal vigilance, symbol of the emperor's watchful compassion. You run your own fingers over the fresh grooves in the stone, feeling the promise within them. Months turn to years. Ashoka ages, silver strands threading through his dark hair, but his eyes grow softer, not dimmer. You see him at a temple built near the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, the very site where the Buddha attained enlightenment. Pilgrims bow in silence, their foreheads touching the earth. Ashoka kneels among them, his robe brushing the dust, and you feel the humility radiate from him like sunlight through leaves. As night falls, you sit with him on the temple steps. The air is fragrant with incense, and the moon casts long shadows of Bodhi leaves upon the ground. Ashoka speaks to you then, though perhaps only in a dream. The wheel of life turns, but we may choose how it turns. Let our hands build, not break. Let our words heal, not wound. Let our hearts be wide as the sea, endless and forgiving. You feel his words settle in your chest, warm and steady. The temple bells sound again, low and melodic, and somewhere a distant monk begins to chant, his voice rising and falling like a lullaby. The stars above seem closer now, bright and watchful, as though they too listen. Ashoka closes his eyes. You do the same, letting the images of the day drift like petals on a stream. The empire lies in quiet transformation. The fields where armies once clashed now bloom with millet and sugarcane. The pillars of edicts stand like sentinels beneath the sun, and across the vastness of the land a softer rhythm pulses, a rhythm of peace, of prayer, of life renewed. You feel yourself drifting, the night deepening, the sound of temple bells fading into the distance. The field of silent prayers stretches endlessly in your mind, glowing with starlight, and you sink gently into its embrace. Sleep comes softly, like a cool breeze through palm leaves, and you rest within the legacy of a ruler who once chose compassion over conquest. Let yourself drift. Let the world be quiet, and let the field of silent prayers carry you deeper, deeper still into dreams. You awaken again within the dream, and this time you are standing in a valley at dusk. The air is warm and still, and the last birds of the evening call to one another as the sun slips behind distant hills. Ashoka is there before you, his figure outlined in amber light, gazing up at a pillar of gleaming sandstone that rises from the earth as though it has always been there. The workers step back, their hands dusty from smoothing the surface, their chisels clinking softly as they rest them upon the ground. The pillar is tall and straight, its capital carved with 4 lions, back to back, their faces calm yet fierce, as if they watch the 4 directions. Ashoka runs his fingers over the new inscriptions carved into the pillar's side. You step closer and feel the coolness of the stone under your own hand, the deep grooves of Brahmi script cut with patience and care. By the fading light, you can just make out the words, a call to kindness, to honesty, to a life lived with restraint and reverence. The stone itself seems to hum softly, as if the words hold a power that will endure beyond the turning of centuries. Night descends slowly. Workers light oil lamps, their flames flickering in the wind. The valley fills with a golden glow, and moths flutter in lazy circles around the light. Ashoka remains, staring at the words as though they are more than mere letters, as though they are living prayers. You hear him speak to a scribe nearby. These stones will outlast my voice. When my bones are dust, may these words still guide them. The scribe bows his head, and you feel the weight of history settling gently upon you like a cloak. The next day you travel with him to another site, farther along the empire's wide roads. The road itself is a marvel, smooth and straight, lined with young trees that cast dappled shadows upon the travelers who pass. Monks with begging bowls, merchants leading oxen heavy with spices, mothers carrying children asleep on their shoulders. Every few leagues there is a well, a rest house, a stone bench shaded by banyan. These were Ashoka's commands too, his desire to make travel safe and life a little kinder for all. You watch him pause to speak with an old woman resting by the roadside. She tells him of her village's struggles after the war, and you see him listen deeply, as though every word she speaks is precious. Farther on, you reach another rising pillar. This one stands in the heart of a bustling market, surrounded by tents of blue and red fabric. Goats bleat softly as they are led away, and the air is thick with the scent of coriander, cumin, and roasting lentils. The stone glows in the late afternoon sun, and children gather around it, curious fingers tracing the letters. Ashoka bends to speak with them, his voice gentle, asking them what they hope for, what they dream of. You see their faces light up, their laughter soft as bells, and you feel a tenderness in your chest, a sense that empires are not only built in palaces, but in moments like this. As months flow by, you travel farther still, through green valleys, past stupas, rising like smooth white domes against the blue sky, past monasteries, carved into cliffsides where the air smells of pine and cool stone. At each place, another pillar, another inscription. Respect all faiths. Do not harm without cause. Teach your children patience, for patience is the root of peace. At night, when the work is done, Ashoka sits by his tent, a simple clay lamp casting soft light upon his face. He speaks quietly to those near him. Monks, ministers, architects. They talk of the future, of sending emissaries beyond the empire's borders. He dreams aloud of dispatching gentle teachers to the lands of the Yonas, the Greeks, and to Lanka across the sea, so that seeds of compassion may take root everywhere. You listen as the fire crackles, and the stars emerge one by one, bright and endless above the dark plain. The words they speak weave around you like a warm shawl, calming, steadying, timeless. One evening, you accompany him to a great hall in Pataliputra, where sculptors labor by torchlight. They work on massive reliefs, carving scenes of deer wandering peacefully in forests, of people sharing water at wells, of pilgrims kneeling at the Bodhi tree. The walls seem alive, shimmering in the light as if breathing the stories they hold. Ashoka walks slowly among them, nodding to each artisan, pausing to offer a word of praise. You see the pride in their faces, the quiet joy of knowing their hands shape something meant to endure. In those days, the empire's heart beats strong. Agriculture flourishes with new canals. Trade flows, bringing silk from distant lands, pearls from southern coasts, sandalwood from forests beyond. But it is not wealth alone that defines these years. It is the feeling you sense as you walk through villages and cities alike, a gentler air, a softening, a sense that life itself is held more dearly. Travelers speak in hushed tones of the emperor who turned from war to peace, whose words are carved into stone for all to see. And so the moon rises again, and you find yourself once more standing in a quiet field where a new pillar has been raised. The workers have gone, and only you and Ashoka remain. The night is bright with starlight, and the lions atop the pillar seem to glow faintly, their features softened by shadow. Ashoka lays his hand against the stone and closes his eyes. You stand beside him in silence, feeling the cool night air against your skin, hearing only the distant rustle of leaves and the steady flow of a nearby river. Time feels endless here. The words carved into the pillar seem to hum softly, as if alive. May all beings live without fear. May no one cause another to suffer. The night deepens, and the stars wheel overhead, silent witnesses to the vow of a ruler who chose to speak through stone rather than swords. You breathe slowly, deeply, letting the night fill your lungs, letting the calm sink into your bones. In that stillness, you feel yourself drifting, as though the soft glow of moonlight carries you into a deeper layer of dreams. The empire sleeps, the pillars stand watch, and Ashoka, beneath the eternal stars, closes his eyes and prays not for conquest, but for peace. Let your own eyes close now. Feel the stone's coolness, the moon's light, the quiet rhythm of history unfolding softly. Drift deeper, ever deeper, into the hush of night, where words carved in stone whisper lullabies that last for centuries. You awaken once more inside this drifting world, and the air is hushed as if the earth itself were holding its breath. The dawn has not yet broken. A faint mist hangs low over groves of neem and sal trees, and you feel dew dampening your skin as you walk barefoot along a narrow path. Ashoka walks ahead of you, a lantern in his hand, its small flame swaying gently with each step. The light reveals a dirt trail leading toward a remote monastery perched upon a hillside, its outline just visible against the pale glow of the eastern sky. The lantern flame flickers, casting long shadows among the roots of ancient trees. You hear the faint rustle of animals waking, the soft cluck of jungle fowl, the sudden leap of a hare darting into the undergrowth. Somewhere far off, a temple bell tolls, slow and sonorous, marking the passing of time in this boundless realm. Ashoka pauses beneath a Bodhi tree, whose branches spread wide, its leaves shimmering like tiny silver coins in the lantern light. He kneels, resting the lantern beside him, and touches the soil as though greeting an old friend. You feel the quiet gravity of that moment, a ruler bowing not before a throne, but before the earth itself. He closes his eyes, and the words come softly. What is a king but a servant? What is power but an offering to those who suffer? The path leads upward. You follow him as he climbs the stone steps carved long ago by monks and pilgrims. At the summit, a simple hall awaits, its wooden beams dark with age, its floor polished by countless feet. The monk gather silently, their robes like river currents in the dim light. Ashoka bows low, and they return the gesture, their eyes calm, reflecting candle flames. He sits among them, cross-legged on a woven mat, and you sit as well. The abbot, an elder with skin like weathered parchment and eyes bright as spring water, speaks softly. Majesty is fleeting. Dharma is eternal. Listen, not as an emperor, but as a soul seeking light. Ashoka listens. The monks chant, their voices weaving through the hall like threads of golden silk. The sound is gentle, rhythmic, and it draws you inward, past the surface of thought, into a stillness vast and deep. You feel the weight of your own body ease as though gravity itself softens. Each syllable of the chant lingers, a soft bell ringing inside your chest. They speak of the Eightfold Path, not as doctrine, but as a living river, right view like a window open to the horizon, right intention like a seed planted with care, right speech like a whisper that soothes, right action like hands lifting another from the ground, right livelihood like the tending of fields that nourish, right effort like the patient turning of soil, right mindfulness like the quiet watching of clouds drift, right concentration like a single candle flame, unwavering. Ashoka's breathing slows. His shoulders relax, and you feel a change within him, subtle as dawn light creeping over stone. The abbot tells him, Write these truths upon your heart, not merely upon pillars. Let your hands serve. Let your feet walk in kindness. Ashoka bows his head, and the candlelight touches the lines of his face, lines carved by years, by loss, by a search for meaning that led him here. Later, as the sun lifts over the hills, you walk with him through the monastery's gardens. Fragrant basil and tulsi grow in neat rows, and bees hum softly as they weave from blossom to blossom. A young novice offers Ashoka a simple bowl of rice and lentils. The emperor thanks him with hands pressed together, the same gesture given by monk to monk, by beggar to king. You feel your own heart swell with a quiet joy, a recognition of something pure and timeless. The day stretches onward. Ashoka meets with the Dhamma Mahamatas, who have traveled from distant provinces. They speak of their journeys, of settling disputes between merchants, of building shelters for weary travelers, of convincing a village headman to spare the life of an old ox once destined for slaughter. Their stories are humble, yet in each one you hear the whisper of Dharma spreading like seeds in the wind. You travel with them to a nearby village. The houses are simple, built of mud walls and thatched roofs, their courtyards shaded by mango trees, heavy with fruit. Children run barefoot, their laughter ringing like tiny bells. Ashoka steps down from his chariot and kneels to speak with them, asking about their lessons, their games, their dreams. You see the awe in their eyes, the way they cluster close to him, as though the presence of compassion is more thrilling than that of any warrior king. In the village square stands another edict pillar, newly carved. Its message is clear, its letters deep and bold. Let no one exalt their own faith while condemning another's. Let every path be honored, for truth wears many robes. The villagers gather around, some murmuring the words aloud, others closing their eyes as though in prayer. Ashoka stands silently among them, a man listening to the heartbeat of his people. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky with streaks of rose and gold, you ride with Ashoka toward the edge of the forest. The road is quiet now, lined with trees whose branches form a green arch overhead. Fireflies emerge, tiny lanterns flickering in the shadows. You feel the rhythm of the horse beneath you, steady and calm, like the rhythm of your own slowing breath. Ashoka speaks softly, perhaps to himself, perhaps to you. I was once a man of war. Now I wish only to be a man of peace. If these pillars stand for centuries, may they speak louder than my armies ever did. The words settle over you like warm rain. You close your eyes for a moment and feel the world sway gently, like a cradle rocking in the dark. Night falls fully, and you make camp beside a quiet river. Ashoka sits by the water's edge, gazing at the moon reflected on the surface. The river hums softly. Crickets sing in the grass, and the air is scented with damp earth and wildflowers. He does not speak, and neither do you. Silence becomes its own language, rich and full. You lie back upon the grass, watching the stars emerge one by one, bright pinpricks in the vast tapestry above. Ashoka's lantern flickers low, and you hear the monks' chants still echoing in your memory, a lullaby woven from time itself. You feel yourself drifting again, sinking deeper into stillness, the whisper of Dharma wrapping around you like a soft blanket. The river flows on. The emperor breathes deeply, eyes half closed, at peace beneath the wheel of night. And you too let your breath slow, let your thoughts drift, letting the whispers of compassion carry you softly, gently, deeper into dreams. Sleep now, under the gaze of the eternal stars, as the pillars of stone stand watch, and the whisper of Dharma sings you into night. You awaken again within the dream, and this time you are walking along a road older than memory itself. The dawn sky is tinted in soft lavender, and the cool breath of early morning touches your cheeks. Beside you rides Ashoka, not in splendor, but in simplicity. His robes of coarse cotton, his head bare to the wind. A caravan follows, monks with serene faces, scribes carrying bundles of palm leaves, healers with satchels of herbs, and workers guiding oxen that pull carts laden with water jars and provisions. The air hums softly with their chants, low and meditative, blending with the rustle of the wind through tall grasses. You are on pilgrimage, leaving behind the palaces and edicts, the maps and councils. Ahead lies Bodh Gaya, where under a spreading tree, a prince once sat in silence until enlightenment bloomed like dawn within him. Ashoka has longed to see this place with his own eyes, to kneel where the Buddha once knelt, to breathe the air of that sacred grove. You walk beside him, your feet stirring the dust of 1,000 pilgrims who have passed before. The road winds through quiet villages, past farmers rising from their fields to press their palms together in greeting. Children wave shyly, their smiles like bright lamps in the morning mist. Women offer cool water from earthen pots, their bangles chiming softly as they hold them out. Ashoka thanks each one with a bow, his voice low and warm, and you feel the gentleness in his words, the way power humbles itself before the ordinary. Days pass. You move through forests alive with the scent of wild jasmine, through rocky passes where streams tumble over smooth stones, through plains golden with ripe grain. At night, the caravan halts. Monks light small fires and chant sutras beneath the stars. Ashoka sits quietly apart, watching the embers drift upward, lost in thoughts as soft as the night air. You lie near the fire, eyes heavy, listening to the hum of insects and the steady rhythm of chanting, until sleep takes you for a while. When morning comes, you rise and walk again. At last, on a day when the sky is bright and clear, the Bodhi tree appears on the horizon, its wide crown rising above the temple grounds like a green cloud. Your steps quicken, though your breath catches in reverence. The air here is different, still and full, as though the earth itself listens. You enter the sacred grove. Around you, pilgrims from every corner of the empire kneel in silence. They lay offerings of rice, of flowers, of small clay lamps that flicker in the shade. The tree itself stands calm, its trunk massive, its branches spreading like open arms. Its leaves stir faintly in a breeze you cannot feel, each one catching the light, trembling like tiny bells. Ashoka approaches slowly. He kneels, lowering his head until his brow touches the earth. You kneel too, feeling the rough soil beneath your hands, the coolness of the shade above you, and in that stillness, a hush falls over all things. Even the birds seem to pause their song. He prays without words, only with breath. Memories of Kalinga rise and fade like distant thunder. Visions of pillars and edicts drift through his mind like petals on a stream. But here, None of that matters. Here there is only the tree, the silence, the heartbeat of the universe itself. You feel tears in your own eyes, unexpected, a soft ache in your chest as something ancient within you stirs awake. Hours pass unnoticed. When Ashoka finally rises, his eyes are bright, and his face is calm in a way you have not seen before. He speaks quietly to the monks. Let a temple be built here, simple and true, so that all who come may remember that peace is possible. They bow deeply, their hands pressed together, and you feel the echo of their reverence in your own body. You wander the grounds with him, seeing where artisans will carve reliefs of the Buddha's life, the birth at Lumbini, the first sermon at Sarnath, the final passing into parinirvana. You hear him speak of planting more Bodhi saplings throughout the empire, so that the shade of enlightenment may touch every village, every road. Already, messengers ride out with cuttings, their saddlebags filled with tender green leaves wrapped in damp cloth. You picture those saplings growing decades from now, offering shelter and peace to travelers yet unborn. As the sun lowers, long shadows stretch across the temple grounds. Pilgrims light lamps, placing them in neat rows around the Bodhi tree. Their flames flicker like 1,000 stars scattered upon the earth. Ashoka sits once more beneath the tree, watching as night descends. He listens to the rustle of leaves, to the distant chants rising from the monastery, to the heartbeat of his own breath. You sit beside him. The air grows cool, scented with sandalwood from nearby altars. Somewhere an owl calls, low and mournful, and fireflies emerge from the grass, weaving soft light into the night. Ashoka speaks to you then, softly, as if sharing a secret. To rule is not to command, but to serve. To serve is not to conquer, but to heal. This tree has taught me that the root of all power is compassion. You feel his words settle within you, warm and steady, like a lantern's glow. Above, the stars emerge, countless and serene, and you imagine the Buddha himself once gazed upon the same night sky, feeling the same vastness. Time stretches, loosens, becomes something endless and tender. Later, as the camp settles into quiet, you watch artisans begin to set stones for the foundation of the temple. Their hammers strike gently, their movements deliberate, each sound ringing like a bell. Children gather nearby, watching with wide eyes, perhaps sensing that something sacred is being born before them. Ashoka walks among them, offering words of gratitude, asking them to care for this place long after he is gone. The night deepens. The Bodhi tree sways slightly, its leaves whispering secrets older than memory. Ashoka lies down upon a simple mat, closing his eyes, his hands folded upon his chest. You lie nearby, feeling the grass beneath you, the soft hum of crickets in the dark. The lamps around the temple glow like embers, steady and warm, and the air is filled with a peace so deep it feels like the earth itself is breathing slowly. You close your eyes, and in the darkness you see the tree again, its roots spreading deep, its branches weight sheltering all. You feel your own breath slow, your body sink gently into the rhythm of night. Ashoka sleeps, the empire sleeps, and you too drift into dreams, carried by the soft rustle of leaves and the eternal whisper of Dharma beneath the Bodhi tree. Sleep now, under that ancient shade. Let your heart rest, let your mind quiet, and let the roots of peace wrap gently around you as you sink deeper into the night. You awaken within the flowing river of time, and the world around you is bathed in the soft gray of early morning. A thin mist hangs low over the land, curling around the bases of towering stone pillars that rise like ancient trees from the earth. You stand with Ashoka in a quiet field outside a small provincial town. The air carries the scent of fresh-cut grass and damp earth. Birdsong drifts through the silence, soft and melodic, as if nature itself is singing praise for what these pillars have come to mean. Each pillar is alive with words, carved deep into polished sandstone. The edicts tell stories without telling stories, commands without harshness, reminders without scolding. You run your fingers over the inscriptions. The grooves are cool, filled with morning dew. Respect all life. Speak kindly. Treat your neighbors as yourself. These words hum faintly in your chest, their echoes traveling through time itself. Ashoka walks slowly around the newest pillar. The artisans bow as he passes, their hands dusty, their chisels tucked into belts. He pauses to speak with one, a young man whose eyes are bright with pride. You carve more than stone, Ashoka tells him gently. You carve the future. The young man smiles, a little shy, and you feel the warmth of that moment radiate like sunlight through leaves. The emperor's journey continues. Weeks turn into months, and you follow him across the empire, watching the pillars rise in distant provinces. In a northern village near the Himalayas, snow gleams on high peaks while farmers pause their work to watch the erection of another edict. You hear the low murmur of their voices as they read aloud, their breath rising in misty clouds. In a southern port city, palm trees sway in sea winds as sailors gather around a freshly set slab, their dark hands tracing the words with reverent curiosity before boarding ships bound for Ceylon and beyond. One evening, you sit with Ashoka in a camp lit by lanterns, the pillars silhouetted against a glowing horizon. He speaks softly to his attendants, the sound of his voice blending with the rhythmic chirping of crickets. There will come a time, he says, when these words are the only voice I have left. Let them be kind. Let them be clear. The attendants nod, some quietly wiping their eyes, and you feel the stillness of night settle deep into your bones. By day, the emperor travels roads, lined with new plantings of banyan and neem, their young leaves whispering in the wind. You see small rest houses along the way, built on his orders, shelters with clay roofs and open courtyards where weary travelers sleep safely, where monks chant sutras before dawn. At one such shelter, Ashoka pauses to speak with a weary pilgrim. The man's feet are calloused, his robes ragged, yet his eyes glow with gratitude as he kneels before the emperor. This road is gentle now, he says, because of you. Ashoka bows his head, humbled by the words. In distant Taxila, you walk with him through a center of learning where philosophers debate under ancient trees. Stone tablets and palm leaf manuscripts lie scattered on low tables. Ashoka asks questions, listens to answers, his mind weaving new connections. The scholars speak of astronomy, of the cycles of planets, of herbs that heal fevers, and herbs that soothe wounds. He orders copies made to send to temples and rest houses across the empire, so knowledge may flow like rivers. There are nights when you sense the weight upon him. He sits alone in his tent, a lamp burning low, his eyes fixed on the dark beyond the canvas. You see him tracing the lines of his own edict in thought, whispering them as if reminding himself, do no harm, honor all paths, let all hearts be heard. You feel his breath slow, the tension in his shoulders easing, until sleep claims him in that gentle rhythm of mantra and night. The pillars speak not only to subjects, but to visitors from far lands. Envoys from the Greek world arrive, their robes bright, their words translated by careful scribes. They marvel at the empire's order, at the kindness woven into law. Ashoka welcomes them with gifts, ivory carvings, silk dyed deep red, bowls of fragrant spices, and in return, they bring tales of distant cities, of ships with sails like wings, of marble statues that gleam under foreign suns. You watch the exchange, feeling history stretch, feeling borders blur in the soft light of understanding. In the capital, more pillars rise in gardens and courtyards. Children play hide and seek around their bases, laughter echoing through the columns like bells. Merchants rest in their shade, reading the edicts aloud as they sip cool water. You sit with Ashoka under one such pillar in the evening, the sky awash with violet and gold. He leans back, looking up at the lions carved above. They will stand long after I am gone, he murmurs, and maybe, in some far future, someone will run their hand over these letters and know that once, long ago, a man tried to speak gently to his world. You close your eyes, imagining that future, centuries hence, traveler stumbling upon these weathered stones, moss creeping into the carved letters, and still they pause, still they listen, still they feel the hum of compassion alive in the grooves. A breeze rustles the grass. Nightbirds begin their songs. Ashoka rises, walks slowly among the pillars, his shadow long in the last light of day. The empire around you hums softly, alive with markets and temples, with families sharing meals and students bending over scrolls. There are no armies marching, no swords drawn, only the quiet work of living. And beneath it all, those pillars stand as silent teachers, echoing his words through every dawn and dusk. The moon climbs high, silvering the land. You lie on your back in the soft grass, the stone's coolness still in your palm. The carved words feel alive, as if whispering directly into your ear. Be kind, be patient, be awake. Your eyes grow heavy as the night deepens. You hear the river in the distance, steady and eternal, carrying these echoes out into the world. Ashoka stands once more beneath the stars, his robe fluttering lightly in the night wind. He touches the stone, breathes a prayer, and turns away, walking toward the next village, the next pillar, the next dawn. You watch him go until he vanishes into shadow, and still the words hum, still the lions above stand watch. The world is quiet now. The carved pillars gleam under moonlight, and you feel yourself drifting with them, beyond time, beyond fear, into a sleep as deep as the earth itself. Let go as the night enfolds you. Let the whispers of ancient stone cradle you, carrying you gently, tenderly, further into dreams. Sleep well, under the watchful eyes of the lions, as the empire breathes softly around you. The dream breathes again, and you awaken in the hush of evening when the empire folds itself into night like petals closing against the dusk. You stand on the rooftop of a palace in Pataliputra. The air is warm, scented with night-blooming flowers and the faint smoke of distant cooking fires. Below you, the city hums softly, carts creaking as they return from the market, the muted rhythm of drums from a festival by the river, a lullaby drifting from a courtyard where mothers rock their children beneath swaying oil lamps. Ashoka is there, leaning on the stone balustrade, a lantern in his hand. Its light spills golden across his face, tracing the lines carved by years of thought and change. He is older now, his hair touched with silver, but his eyes are calm, deep as pools beneath forest trees. He watches the city, not as a conqueror surveying spoils, but as a guardian, tender and watchful. You step closer, and he speaks softly, as though sharing a secret meant only for the night air. Each lamp below is a life, each life a lantern. If I can help even one burn more gently, my own has not been wasted. The words settle in you, warm and steady. You look out over the rooftops, where lanterns sway like tiny stars, caught in the branches of the world. Ashoka lifts his own lantern, shielding it from the wind with his hand, and begins to walk. You follow him down a narrow stairway into the dim corridors of the palace, past carved wooden doors and niches holding clay lamps. Servants bow as he passes, but he pauses to ask after their families, their villages. Their faces light up, surprised and grateful, and you feel the ripple of kindness move through the quiet hall like a tide. Outside, the palace gardens glow with lanterns, strung from tree to tree. The leaves shimmer in their light, and the scent of jasmine thickens in the warm air. Ashoka strolls among the paths, stopping to greet gardeners tending late-blooming lotuses in shallow ponds. He kneels, dipping his fingers into the water, watching the ripple spread outward like circles of thought. Even this pond, he murmurs, is part of the empire. Even these blossoms deserve peace. The gardeners smile shyly, pressing their palms together in reverence, and you see how the emperor's words turn labor into something holy. Further on, in a quiet pavilion, monks have gathered for an evening discourse. Lanterns sway gently above them, their light catching the glint of beads in their malas, the folds of their saffron robes. Ashoka sits among them, not on a throne, but cross-legged on the mat like any other listener. They speak of metta, loving kindness, of extending goodwill beyond family, beyond tribe, beyond all borders. You listen as the words fall like soft rain upon thirsty ground. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from harm. May all hearts awaken to peace. The chant rises and falls, a lullaby of compassion that seems to wash the day from your soul. Later, Ashoka takes a single lantern and walks beyond the palace walls into the sleeping city. You walk beside him through narrow alleys where shadows pool. In one courtyard, a family sits around a low fire, their faces weary from work, their laughter quiet but real. Ashoka crouches beside them, offering a small pouch of rice from his own supply, asking nothing in return. They press their foreheads to the earth in thanks, and he bows in turn, equal to them in that moment, bound only by shared humanity. The night seems to glow brighter for it, as though the lanterns overhead have learned from his heart. He leads you onward, past the gates where guards stand, watch under torchlight, past the edge of the city where fields stretch into darkness. Fireflies dance over the tall grasses, each one a tiny lantern of its own, rising and falling in rhythm with the wind. Ashoka stops and sets his lantern on the earth. Its light spills out, merging with the soft glimmer of fireflies, and for a moment you cannot tell which is the flame and which is the living light. Long after my voice is gone, Ashoka whispers, these nights will remain. Long after my hands are dust, lanterns will still be lit against the dark. Let them burn for kindness. Let them burn for peace. You close your eyes, feeling the words settle deep inside you, a quiet ember glowing where sorrow once lived. The caravan of his thoughts continues, and soon you are traveling again. Through distant villages he walks, lantern in hand, speaking with elders beneath tamarind trees, blessing new wells, asking that children be taught to read the edicts carved in stone. In each place, lanterns are lit in his honor, not for power, but for light shared freely. You see them swaying in temple courtyards, on fishing boats along the coast, in mountain shrines where the air is thin and cold. Every lantern is a prayer, every flicker a heartbeat of the empire's newfound gentleness. Time drifts. One night, years later, you find yourself with Ashoka on the banks of the Ganges. Hundreds of lanterns float upon the water, their flames steady as they drift downstream. The river glows, alive with light, carrying prayers and hopes out to the sea. Ashoka stands silently, watching them go, his hands folded. You feel the breeze on your face, the scent of water and clay, the eternal hush of a river that has seen empires rise and fall. In that moment, the world feels whole, as if all wounds might yet be healed. The lanterns float farther, their lights dwindling to tiny stars on the dark water. Ashoka breathes deeply, his eyes soft with memory and resolve. He turns to you and says, almost in a whisper, the pillars are my voice in stone. These lanterns, these are my voice in the dark. Carry them if you can. Carry them long after I am gone. You nod, though words fail you, your heart too full, your eyes stinging with tears. And then the night deepens, soft as velvet. You lie down on the riverbank, the grass cool beneath you, the sound of lanterns drifting and crickets singing blending into one endless lullaby. Above you, the stars shimmer. Beside you, the lanterns float. Within you, the Emperor's lantern nights burn quietly, eternal and kind. You close your eyes. The wind hums softly. The river carries your breath away, slow and calm. The empire sleeps in peace. The lanterns glow, and you, cradled by the night, drift ever deeper into a dream lit only by compassion and endless, tender light. Sleep well under the lanterns as they sway gently in the night breeze. The dream breathes again, and when your eyes open, you find yourself standing at the edge of a vast construction site under the pale light of dawn. The air is cool, tinged with the smell of wet stone and fresh-cut timber. All around you, men and women move slowly but steadily, their voices low, their faces calm with the rhythm of familiar work. Ashoka stands among them, robes simple, lantern extinguished now in the rising sun. He is not above them on a dais or hidden behind soldiers. He is here, shoulder to shoulder, his hands clasped behind him as he watches the labor of compassion take shape in stone and clay. To your left, masons chip away at great blocks of sandstone, smoothing their surfaces with care. The rhythmic sound of chisels rises into the cool air like a heartbeat, steady and soothing. Beyond them, carpenters plane beams of teak and name, the scent of resin sharp and sweet. Scribes sit cross-legged under the shade of a half-finished portico, copying edicts onto palm leaves so that local governors might know the emperor's wishes. Nearby, women shape clay pots to store grain in the rest houses along the new roads. You feel the ground under your feet vibrate faintly as oxen drag a heavy stone into place, ropes creaking, workers singing low to keep their rhythm. Their song is simple, a call and response in an old tongue, and though you cannot understand each word, the feeling of it seeps into your chest like sunlight through your skin. Ashoka listens too, eyes softened, as if their voices are a prayer woven into the very walls they build. He moves quietly among them, offering praise, asking after their families. A mason looks up, surprised when the emperor himself stoops to examine his work. Strong and true, Ashoka says, running his hand along the stone's smooth surface. The mason bows deeply, and you see pride rise in his eyes like dawn over the hills. As the day unfolds, you follow Ashoka through other sites, canals being dug to bring water to thirsty fields, bridges spanning wide rivers, market halls where traders will gather under carved wooden beams. At each place he pauses to speak with those whose hands shape the empire. A young woman adjusting a roof beam tells him she builds so her children might rest in shade. A potter shaping clay whispers that her bowls will carry rice to travelers far from home. Ashoka listens as though each word is a jewel, turning it gently in his mind. Later, you find yourself walking with him along a newly paved road, its surface gleaming in the afternoon light. Trees line both sides, their branches arching overhead to form a canopy of green. Rest houses stand at intervals, shaded courtyards where merchants nap beside their carts, where monks meditate under banyan trees. A breeze carries the distant scent of cardamom and tamarind from a nearby village, mingling with the sweet earthiness of the road itself. Ashoka slows his pace to watch two children chase each other, laughing across the road's smooth stones. Their feet will never know the sharpness of gravel here, he says softly, as if to himself. You feel a warmth bloom in your chest, a knowing that this, too, is a form of compassion, a road built not for armies, but for joy. In the capital, you visit the workshops of artisans tasked with inscribing edicts into polished stone. The room is dim, shafts of sunlight cutting through latticed windows to fall upon the smooth gray slabs. Each letter carved is deliberate, each groove a breath of intention. Ashoka watches them work, sometimes kneeling beside a craftsman to steady a trembling hand, sometimes adjusting a lantern to cast better light on the stone. His presence is not command, but quiet encouragement, a reminder that what they create will outlast them all. One evening, as the work winds down and the tools are set aside, you sit with Ashoka on a low wall overlooking the river. The sun dips low, and the sky blooms with colors: amber, rose, deepening to violet. Workers gather their children, sharing simple meals of rice and lentils, laughter mingling with the whisper of the river. Ashoka watches them, silent for a long time. Then he speaks, voice low. An empire is not built by kings. It is built by hands, by hearts that hope for more. I only light the way. They carry the stones. You feel the truth of his words settle deep. Like seeds finding soil, night falls, lanterns are lit, and you follow him through streets alive with quiet life. Merchants close their stalls, their hands brushing over bolts of silk and jars of spices. A potter locks his shed, his arms still dusted with fine clay. Above, the stars begin to appear, reflected in the dark ribbon of the river. Ashoka stops before a new hospital, its walls still smelling of fresh plaster. Inside, healers tend to travelers wounded on their journeys, offering herbs and poultices, clean cloth and water. A child sleeps on a cot, feverish but cared for, and Ashoka stands silently in the doorway, his eyes bright with tears. Let this be my monument, he whispers. Not stone, not gold, but healing. Days blur into nights, weeks into months, as you travel beside him across the breadth of the empire. You see schools rise where there were none, wells dug where thirst once reigned, markets shaded by new colonnades where voices from many lands mingle in peace. Everywhere, hands work quietly, shaping, tending, building. You see the pride in their eyes, the dignity in their labor, the way each small act of creation feels like a prayer for a better world. One night, far from the capital, you sit with Ashoka and a group of workers around a campfire. They pass around a pot of steaming lentil stew, sharing stories in low voices. One man speaks of his village, where his wife waits and his children play in fields of millet. Another tells of traveling many paths to find work and finding instead a community, a purpose. Ashoka listens, head bowed, lantern light flickering across his face. He says nothing for a long time, then offers a blessing. May your hands always know the weight of kindness. May your children walk roads that bring them home. The fire burns low. The night deepens. Stars wheel overhead, ancient and calm. You lie back on the cool earth, hearing the distant hum of insects, the rhythmic breath of those around you as they drift into dreams. The empire sleeps, not in fear, but in peace. The quiet architects of its future rest with calloused hands, folded gently on their chests. Ashoka remains awake a while longer, gazing at the fire's embers, lantern beside him, his face soft with gratitude. And then even he lies down, and the night enfolds you all. You feel your own breath slow, your mind growing still, as the whispers of 1,000 small acts of kindness weave around you like a warm quilt. Sleep now, in the company of builders and dreamers, under a sky filled with stars, as the empire hums softly, shaped by hands that never sought glory, only peace. Let the rhythm of their work cradle you, carrying you deeper into the night. The dream stirs softly, like a breeze through tall reeds at dawn. When your eyes open within this quiet world, you stand on a hilltop, the air cool and scented with pine and sandalwood. Far below lies the vast sweep of the Mauryan Empire, its rivers winding like silver threads, its roads straight and steady, its villages flickering with lantern light. Ashoka stands beside you, older now, his shoulders draped in a simple cloth, his hair streaked with white. His eyes are lifted, not toward the land he rules, but toward the horizon where the sun prepares to rise. You sense his mind is not only on the present, but on centuries yet to come. The wind brushes your cheek as he begins to speak, his voice low and melodic, as if carried by the breeze itself. An empire is a breath, he murmurs, fleeting, but what we plant in hearts, this grows beyond time. You listen, the words sinking into you like rain into soil. Behind you, monks sit in silent meditation, their robes bright in the pale light. Birdsong spills gently into the air, each note a droplet of sound. He turns, leading you down the path toward a newly built monastery nestled into the hillside. It is modest, its walls painted white, its courtyards shaded by young Bodhi saplings. Inside, novices sweep the floors, their movements slow and mindful. Ashoka pauses to watch them, smiling faintly. They will teach children who will teach their own, he says softly. A river of kindness flowing into the future. You feel the truth of it, as if you can see generations yet unborn walking these same worn stones. From the monastery, you travel with him to a council of sages gathered in a garden pavilion. There, under carved wooden beams, they unroll maps and speak of lands beyond the sea, the Seleucids, the Ptolemies, distant kings across deserts and waves. Ashoka listens as they tell of caravans that could carry words as easily as spices, of ships that could bring messages as easily as pearls. He nods, thoughtful, and dictates letters. To Antiochus, king of the Yavanas, greetings in peace and health. You watch as scribes bend over the parchment, their hands steady, their faces lit by afternoon sun. These letters, sent with gifts of herbs and teachings, will cross borders like quiet lanterns. Glowing far from their source, the day lengthens, and you walk with him through fields where farmers bend over green shoots of rice. Ashoka kneels in the dirt beside an old farmer, asking about the water channels, about the soil. The farmer's hands are rough, his face lined with years of sun, yet his eyes are gentle as he answers. He speaks of rains late last season, of gratitude for the new canal that saved the crop. Ashoka listens, and you feel a hush fall over the field, as though the earth itself leans in to hear. This, the emperor whispers to you later as you walk, is the heart of rule. To listen, to serve. At night, back in Pataliputra, you find him on a terrace overlooking the river. The city is quiet, its lights reflected into dark waters. The moon hangs low, silver and full. Ashoka's face is lined and weary, yet peaceful. He takes a breath, slow and deep, and says, "All things pass, but Dharma endures." You stand beside him, feeling the river's breeze against your skin, hearing the distant creak of a cart on a late-night road. He speaks of his own mortality then, not with fear, but with calm acceptance. "One day," he says softly, "my voice will be gone, but these pillars will still stand. These roads will still lead travelers home. these seeds we plant in hearts will still bloom. You look out across the darkened city and imagine centuries folding and unfolding. Imagine travelers running their fingers over worn stone, reading words carved so long ago they might as well be eternal. And you understand, he is no longer only ruler of a land, but of a vision carried far beyond his time. The next morning, you travel with him to the great hall where artisans prepare new sculptures for distant shrines. They work slowly, reverently, chiseling images of deer, of lotus blossoms, of a serene Buddha seated beneath a tree. The sound of their tools is rhythmic, meditative. Ashoka walks among them, offering water, sharing bread, his presence a gentle encouragement. He stops before a young sculptor and asks, "When you carve this, what do you feel?" The young man looks up, eyes wide, and says, "Peace, my lord. I feel peace." Ashoka smiles, placing a hand on the sculptor's shoulder. "Then that peace will live in the stone," he says, "and you feel it too, radiating from the half-finished figure, a stillness that seems to fill the room. As the day wanes, you follow him to a high plateau where a new pillar has just been raised. The wind is stronger here, tugging at your robe. The sky is a deep blue fading into gold. Ashoka walks to the pillar and runs his hand over the fresh inscription, "Even the mighty should tremble before the smallest life. Even the ruler should bow before truth." He closes his eyes, and for a long moment, there is only the wind, the stone, and the steady sound of his breath. Then he turns to you and says, "Remember this. If you remember nothing else, kindness is the only crown that does not fade." The workers gather around, lanterns beginning to glow as the sun dips. They light incense and offer prayers, their voices soft in the dusk. Ashoka joins them, palms pressed together, his head bowed. You watch the smoke curl into the darkening sky, carrying with it the hopes of countless lives. The empire breathes quietly around you, a vast and tender thing, shaped by many hands and one guiding heart. Later, when the crowd disperses and night deepens, you and Ashoka sit on a stone bench overlooking the horizon. Stars prick the sky, bright and innumerable. Below, villages twinkle with lamplight. You hear distant singing, the slow roll of a river. Ashoka's eyes are far away now, gazing into a time beyond this moment. He whispers, almost to himself, "May these words travel further than I can. May they light a lantern in someone's heart. Centuries from now, you sit in silence with him, letting the night settle into your bones. The wind is cool, carrying the scent of pine and earth, carrying the soft sound of rustling leaves. You close your eyes and feel your breath slow, your heartbeat soften. Around you, the empire sleeps in peace. The pillars stand watch, the lanterns burn low, and Ashoka, with his gaze beyond time, sits quietly by your side, a presence as steady as the stars. Let yourself rest now. Let the weight of centuries cradle you. Let the emperor's vision drift like a song through your dreams. The night is wide and endless, and you are safe within it. Sleep, dear listener. Sleep as the wind whispers over ancient stones, as lanterns sway, as time itself softens into a lullaby. The dream folds open again, like the petals of a midnight lotus, and you awaken to the sound of bells in the distance. They ring softly from a temple hidden high in the hills, their tones carrying on the morning air as mist curls through cedars and pines. You stand on a narrow path that winds through a sacred valley, the stones beneath your feet damp with dew. Ashoka walks ahead of you, his robe plain, his steps deliberate and unhurried, his staff tapping softly against the ground with each stride. The valley breathes around you, the hush of leaves, the sigh of a stream tumbling over smooth stones, the faint song of a bird greeting the dawn. The air tastes of pine resin and fresh water. You feel as though you are walking inside a prayer. Ashoka pauses where the path widens, and you see carved steps leading up to a shrine built against a cliff face. The stone is cool and dark, etched with reliefs of deer and lotuses, of the Buddha seated in quiet contemplation. Monks emerge from the shadowed entrance, their robes fluttering in the breeze, their faces serene. They bow deeply, and Ashoka bows in return, his forehead nearly touching the earth. Inside the shrine, the light is dim. Lamps burn with a soft glow, their flames reflected in the polished bronze of offering bowls. The air is rich with incense, and the sound of chanting weaves through the chamber like a silken thread. You sit with Ashoka on the stone floor, feeling the cold seep into your knees, but also feeling a warmth rise from within, the warmth of stillness, of presence, of ancient voices echoing through time. The abbot speaks softly. All things change, great king, but the footsteps you leave may guide others, long after you are gone. Ashoka nods, his eyes shimmering in the lamplight. When you leave the shrine, the valley is bright with noon sun. Pilgrims gather around Ashoka, offering him water, asking for blessings. He speaks to them gently, telling them to tend their fields with care, to speak with kindness to their neighbors, to shelter the poor when storms come. You see the way their shoulders straighten, the way hope flickers in their eyes like lantern light. The path leads you onward, past terraced fields where farmers plant millet in careful rows. Children wave as you pass, their laughter skipping across the air like pebbles over a stream. Ashoka pauses to watch them, a faint smile on his face, and you feel his heart soften again and again at these simple moments. This, he whispers to you as the road bends, is what it means to rule, not to be above, but to walk beside. Days pass as you journey deeper into the hills. At night, you sleep beneath canopies of stars, the fires crackling low, the cool wind carrying scents of earth and wildflowers. Ashoka often sits awake long after others have closed their eyes, gazing at the dark outline of the mountains. You hear him murmur to himself, soft as a lullaby, "May these words be carried by the wind. May these roads be carried by time." You close your eyes listening, and the sound drifts you toward sleep, as steady as a river's flow. In another valley, you find a community of healers tending to the sick. Ashoka sits with them, asking questions about herbs, about poultices, about the needs of those who suffer. He orders that supplies be sent, that roads be improved to bring more patients to safety. You see the gratitude in the healer's eyes as they press their hands together in silent thanks. The sick lie in quiet rows, some humming to themselves, some asleep, and Ashoka walks among them, touching each shoulder lightly, offering a word of blessing. It is not ceremony, It is connection, a ruler kneeling in the dust to see another's pain. Later, in the shadow of great cedars, you sit by a mountain stream with him. He dips his hands into the cold water and drinks, letting the droplets fall back to the current. "Look," he says softly. "The stream remembers nothing. It carries all, and it carries nothing. That is how I wish to rule now, to carry the burdens of many, and yet hold no bitterness." You watch the water rush by, glinting in sunlight, and feel his words settle like stones in your heart. Traveling further, you pass ancient carvings in cliffsides, kings long forgotten, gods whose names have faded. Ashoka runs his fingers over the weathered lines. "They built, they conquered, they vanished," he whispers. "But if one word of kindness remains, it is enough." You look at him then, this man whose own pillars will stand for centuries, and you feel the weight and lightness of time in a single breath. At a monastery perched above the clouds, you sit with him in silence for hours. The monks chant softly, wind bells sing, and clouds drift through open windows, wrapping the hall in silver mist. Ashoka closes his eyes, his breathing slow and deep. You close yours as well, and time dissolves. The empire fades from your thoughts. Only the rhythm of breath, the hum of ancient prayers, and the soft touch of eternity remain. When you open your eyes again, night has fallen. Lanterns glow in the courtyard, and the valley below is a sea of darkness, punctuated by distant fires. Ashoka stands beside you, gazing outward, his face serene, ageless. "Do you see?" he whispers. "All this will pass, but the way we walk remains. Walk gently, and the path becomes gentle." You feel tears in your eyes, though you cannot say why, and the wind carries them softly away. You rest under a simple roof that night, the sound of monks chanting in the distance, lulling you. Ashoka sleeps nearby, one hand resting over his chest as though cradling a fragile truth. You drift into dreams knowing that his footsteps, echoing through sacred valleys, will guide countless souls long after the lanterns burn out. The wind hums through the cedars, carrying ancient prayers. The stars wheel slowly overhead, and you, wrapped in the emperor's vision of peace, let go of the waking world. Your breath deepens, your heartbeat slows, and you fall gently into the endless night, safe in the knowledge that compassion has walked these valleys before and will walk them again, forever. Sleep well, beneath the shadow of mountains and the whisper of streams, carried by the footsteps of one who sought peace beyond all time. The dream drifts you onward, and you awaken in the hush of twilight when the air glows faintly as day leans into night. You find yourself in a meadow at the edge of a village. The ground is scattered with stones, some upright, some fallen, ancient pillars worn by centuries of wind and rain. Ashoka stands among them, his hands clasped behind him, his gaze tender as though he is greeting old friends. The villagers gather quietly around, lanterns trembling in their hands. Children sit cross-legged on the grass, eyes wide, as the elders tell them stories of the inscriptions carved long ago. One man speaks softly. "My grandfather brought me here as a child. He told me these stones were the voice of a king who asked us to be kind." Ashoka closes his eyes, listening, and you feel his breath deepen. The words have traveled far, carried by time itself. Until now, they live on the lips of people who never knew his name, only his spirit. He kneels by a pillar whose letters have grown faint, moss creeping into the grooves. His fingers trace the words, "Let all creatures be at peace. Let no one harm another." The villagers watch him, unaware that the man before them is the same ruler whose voice once commanded armies and then turned to compassion. He does not reveal himself. Instead, he listens as they recite the edicts aloud, their tones reverent, like prayers. And you feel it, how stone can hold the memory of a soul, how the simplest words can outlive all crowns and banners. The sun sinks lower, shadows lengthen, blending with the murmurs of the people. A young girl steps forward with a small bowl of flowers, placing them at the base of a weathered pillar. Her eyes are bright as she whispers, "Thank you for these words, whoever you were." Ashoka bows his head, and you see tears shine briefly on his cheeks, catching the last light of the sun. Night falls softly. A fire is lit in the village square, and stories flow like water from elder to child. They tell of travelers who found comfort at roadside shelters, of healers who carried herbs along new roads, of markets built in barren places, of letters carved in stone that taught even kings to kneel. Ashoka listens in silence, his heart swelling with a bittersweet peace. He speaks to you then, low and thoughtful. "They do not know me. They do not need to. The stone speaks now, and that is enough." You follow him as he walks beyond the village to a hillside where other pillars stand in moonlight. They are taller than the trees, their lions still proud, their inscriptions sharp and clear. The wind sighs through the grass, carrying scents of earth and night-blooming flowers. Ashoka lays his palm against one pillar, closing his eyes. He whispers words you cannot hear, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a farewell. And in the stillness, it seems the stone itself hums softly in reply, a deep vibration that moves through your chest like a heartbeat. Time slows. You feel centuries folding and unfolding around you. You see distant travelers in future ages, running their hands over these same letters, pausing to read, to wonder, to remember. You see a boy hundreds of years from now, tracing the grooves with curious fingers, asking, "Who spoke these words?" And though no one may answer, the message remains. Be kind, be gentle, walk softly upon the earth. Ashoka opens his eyes and looks up at the moon, round and bright. He speaks to you softly. "When I was young, I thought glory lived in conquest. When I was older, I thought power lived in edicts. Now I know. True power lives in the hearts of those who listen." His voice trembles, not with weakness, but with wonder. You stand beside him, feeling the night wrap around you like a warm cloak. Far below, the village fires burn low. Children sleep in their mother's arms. The pillars gleam faintly under starlight, and the breeze carries whispers through the grass. Ashoka begins to walk slowly down the hill, lantern in hand, his shadow stretching long and thin. You follow, your footsteps soft on the earth, feeling that each step carries not only your own weight, but the weight of countless others who have walked before and will walk after. As you near the village again, you hear the river singing, a low, eternal murmur over smooth stones. Ashoka pauses on the bank, watching moonlight dance on the water's surface. He crouches, cups his hands, and drinks, then lets the water fall back to the river unclaimed. It is enough to be part of the flow, he murmurs, not to own it, not to stop it, only to join it for a while. The water glimmers like silver as it moves away, carrying with it some unspoken blessing. Later, you rest with him in a simple hut offered by the villagers. The walls are woven bamboo, the floor soft with mats. You hear crickets sing, and far off, the rustle of trees in the night wind. Ashoka lies down with a sigh, his eyes closed, his face peaceful. A child's voice drifts through the open window, reciting softly one of the edicts she heard that evening. Let none exalt themselves by bringing others low. Her words fade into the night like a lullaby. You lie back, staring at the ceiling where lantern light flickers softly. The image of the pillars stays with you. Their height, their patience, their eternal song carved in stone. You feel sleep draw near, gentle as the river, deep as the earth. Outside, the wind hums. Above, stars shine. And within you, the voice of those stones whispers still, reminding you that kindness does not end. Even when names are forgotten, breathe slowly. Let the night enfold you. Let the old pillars stand watch over your dreams, speaking softly of peace through endless ages. Sleep now, dear listener, in the meadow of memory and moonlight, where even the stones have learned to speak. The dream deepens, and you awaken one final time within its soft embrace. You are standing on a quiet plain, the horizon endless, the sky ablaze with stars. The air is cool and scented with distant jasmine. The only sound is the low murmur of wind moving over ancient grass. Ashoka is there, a solitary figure in simple robes, standing beside a great carved wheel, half buried in the earth. Its spokes are worn smooth, its rim chipped by centuries, but it gleams in the moonlight as if alive. He rests his hand upon it, eyes half closed, and breathes deeply. This wheel, he whispers, was carved in my time, but it belongs to all time. It turns, always turning, like the seasons, like life, like Dharma itself. You move closer, feeling the cold stone under your fingertips. The grooves are deep and sure, filled with dust of 1,000 years. And in that stillness, you feel something stir, an awareness that you are touching not only stone, but memory, not only memory, but meaning. Around you rise the echoes of 1,000 journeys. You see in your mind's eye the pillars scattered across plains and mountains, still standing beneath sun and storm. You see roads lined with trees whose roots have thickened, whose branches shade generations of travelers. You see monks in distant lands, whispering sutras first spoken long ago by the Buddha and carried by Ashoka's gentle emissaries. You see villages still tending their fields, still telling their children to speak kindly, still lighting small lamps at dusk. Ashoka kneels on the ground. The moonlight washes over his lined face, over his hands that once signed decrees, and now simply rest upon his knees. He does not speak for a long time. The wind shifts, and you hear the rustle of grass, the faint trickle of a stream somewhere beyond sight. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost lost in the night air. All that I have done, all that I have built, it will fade. But if even one heart has learned to love, that is enough. That is the only victory worth keeping. You close your eyes and feel the truth of it move through you like a river. In that silence, the stars seem closer, as though they too are listening. Ashoka's breath slows, his shoulders soften. You sense his spirit stretching beyond this field, beyond these years into something vast and timeless. A group of villagers approaches quietly, lanterns in hand. They do not know who he is, only that he is a traveler resting by the ancient wheel. They offer him bread and milk. He thanks them, his voice gentle, and blesses them with a bow. They smile, leaving the lanterns behind so that he might have light through the night. Their footsteps fade, and you are left with him, the wheel, the stars. Ashoka sets the lanterns in a circle around the wheel. Their flames waver softly, casting light upon the carved spokes. You watch as shadows dance, as if the wheel itself turns slowly in the glow. He whispers again, as if to the stars, as if to the ages. This is my last journey. I leave no riches, no palaces to remember me. Only these stones, these roads, these words, and perhaps that is enough. He lies back upon the grass, looking up. The lantern light shimmers over his face, soft and calm. You lie beside him, the earth cool beneath you, the heavens endless above. For a long while, neither of you speaks. You simply breathe, in rhythm with the night, in rhythm with the turning of unseen wheels. Far away, you imagine monks chanting in distant monasteries. You imagine farmers setting down their tools to rest beneath trees planted by imperial decree. You imagine children reading old edicts carved long ago, their voices soft with wonder. The world carries on, and the wheel turns, always turning. Time does not stop, but the light within those words continues to glow. Ashoka closes his eyes, and you sense a great peace settle over him. He has walked from conquest to compassion, from blood to blessing, and now his heart rests. The lanterns flicker, the wind hums softly, the stars wheel above. You feel your own breath grow slow, your heartbeat soften, your thoughts drift like petals on a stream. The Emperor speaks one last time, his voice a whisper barely louder than the night itself. Good night. And with that, the dream folds around you completely. The lanterns blur into starlight, the wheel spins silently, and the grass cradles you as though the earth itself is singing you to rest. You sink deeper and deeper, safe within history's arms, carried gently into sleep under the stars over the eternal wheel. Good night.